All right, everybody, welcome back to another positional rankings video. Obviously, we did quarterbacks last time. Now it's the running backs' turn. Who's number one, number two, number three, all the way till 10. Let's just get right into it, man. Starting with maybe a little bit of a surprise. Jawhar Jordan out of Louisville, 5'10", 186. Have him as a day 3 grade right now. I don't really know where in the day 3 area, just day 3 most likely because he is 25 years old. Or he will be 25 years old going into his rookie season. He's 24 right now. I want to say his birthday's in like late summer area, so like he'll be turning 25 like damn near as preseason and everything is going on. But man, this kid's got speed for days. I love the juice that he has, that he brings to the field. I hate that they used, this is Louisville, they used Garendo so much, or Garendo so much, because I think Jawhar Jordan is just so much better. And I think they would have gotten, or he would have gotten a lot more production this year, but he still had over 6 yards per carry, 13 touchdowns, over 1,100 yards. That's still pretty good. Obviously, like I said, this dude is an older prospect, so it's a little bit of a surprise to be here in the top 10, but I think he has great receiving upside. He's got, like I said, a ton of speed. He's got like super high make you miss ability. Like if he breaks you down, like you might as well just go to the sideline. Once you're broken down into that stance to try and tackle, and like you're a safety coming down, he's already by you. Like that just it is what it is. He originally was at Syracuse, I believe, for 4 years and just never really panned out there. I don't know if it was the coaching staff just wasn't playing him that much, but he doesn't have like a ton of volume outside the last 2 years that he was at Louisville. So that is good, even though he's 25. Hasn't had a crazy amount of injuries. I think he had a hamstring injury this year that was kind of lingering, and that's why they leaned a little bit on Garendo. Outside of that, not a ton of volume in college, so his legs are still, I would say, pretty fresh, and that's important for running back prospects. Obviously, nowadays, people aren't going to take the, you know, guys as high if they're 3-4 year starters, 300 carries a season, injury galore, like not injury galore, but has had injuries in the past. Like people kind of shy away from that now. And I think Garendo, his teammate Jawhar Jordan, who we're talking about, I don't know how long his prime's going to last, right? But I really think this kid could be a really, really good running back in the NFL, whether that's a third down back. He can probably be a returner for you. I don't think he'll ever be a 3 down guy just because of his size in the NFL. He can bring some explosive plays. Like I said, he got receiving upside. He had 21 catches this year, 39 for his career, so over half of them just this year. And man, I don't know. I really love Jawhar Jordan, and the game against Notre Dame was super, super impressive. I think he should have a pretty good career in the NFL. I don't know how long it'll last, but this one's also probably going to be a surprise for some people. I have Audric Estime at 9. And obviously for some people, this dude's a top 5 running back for you. I have him as round 4, so he's still day 3. A lot of these guys, I didn't really know where to grade them. So it's kind of just at some point on my big board, these guys will probably fluctuate again. But for right now, number 9, Audric Estime, obviously a tank at 5'11", almost 230 pounds. He brings some juice as well, but in a different department that Jawhar Jordan brings it. Not, the highest top end speed ever, obviously. You wouldn't expect that from this kind of guy, but he gives you a lot of power. He gives you decent pass blocking. He can catch the ball. Maybe not a great receiving back in the NFL, but he does have decent hands. I think this kid, if you want to use him as one, can definitely be a 3 down back. I mean, he always falls forward, which is I think a very vital attribute that a running back can have. If you keep falling forward for these 2-3 yards or 1 to 2 yards, that's going to show up. That's going to wear down the defensive line, the linebackers, the safeties. They're not going to want to hit you when you keep those legs turning like he does and you're falling forward for an extra 1 to 2 yards. Plus, if you do that, that might change your second down play or third down play from a 3rd and 6 or 2nd and 6 to a 2nd and 4 or maybe even a 3rd and 4. That's a big difference in play call. Just those 2 yards. So Audric Estime, I mean, he had an incredible season at Notre Dame, 18 touchdowns, over 1,300 yards, over 6 yards per carry. Like, the dude's a tank. Don't, like, just because he's the number 9 running back for me does not mean I don't like him as a prospect. I think he is a good prospect. I just, at this stage of the NFL, I value receiving backs and backs with speed so much that he kind of falls here. So, and I think that'll show for another guy, but we'll get to him later. I do think he's a patient runner and he breaks a ton of arm tackles. Like, I think he was third, he was somewhere in the top 5 for most broken tackles this year. And at 5'11", 230, you'd hope so. Because when he's running out there, it looks like a linebacker running through people. Like, he is a mammoth of a man. He's not going to blow you away with a bunch of burst or explosiveness, but that's not what you're getting, what you're going to be expecting from a guy like this. You're going to expect this dude to be more of a Derrick Henry type back where he's just going to grind out yards for you, and maybe third, fourth quarter, he's worn down the defense so much that he breaks off a 50-yarder, 40-yarder, 60-yarder, whatever it is. I'm pretty sure he had an 80-yard run this year against NC State that one actually was in the second quarter. But you get what I mean. He's got speed. It's just usually he's not going to be the guy that's going to break off an 80-yard run. It's going if he does, it's going to be because of broken tackles. So Audric Estime, really good prospect, had a stellar season, but he does fall here to 9 for me because of some of the other attributes. And this guy jumps above him, Jaylen Wright out of Tennessee. And what I meant with speed and receiving ability, this guy brings both. Obviously, he didn't have a ton of receptions this year, but dude, this guy is a track star. Jaylen Wright, he's expected to have a 4.3, I'm pretty sure, somewhere around there, 4.3, 40. Just speed, speed, speed all day. He could be this year's Devon Achane. I don't think he's that fast, but he could be that guy for some people because this past season for Tennessee, he averaged 7.4 yards per carry. That is absurd. 7.5 average on every carry. Obviously, he had carries that went for 1 yards, -5 yards, whatever it was. But he had over 1,000 yards on 7.5 yards per carry. That is insane. The home run speed and big playability from this guy is what you're looking at. Are looking for when you draft this dude. He's probably going to be a returner when he first comes into the league. He's not going to be a 3-down back, so don't expect that. If he goes to, say, a similar situation of Achane, where you have Mostert, who's going to be mainly the dominant, running back 1 in your offense, and then you're going to have, then you're going to have a guy like Jaylen Wright behind him, and he's just going to bring juice, and the defense is going to have to take account for wherever he is on the field because he can catch the ball. He's going to run by people. That's for sure. And he's going to bring explosive plays, which explosive plays win you games in the NFL in this day and age. So, and he's not a bad size either at 5'11", 210. Achane is what, 5'8", 5'9", under 200 pounds. This dude's over 200 pounds, so he can take bigger hits, and he's also 5'11", which is a pretty good size for a running back. There's a bunch of receivers that are 5'11", so, I mean, obviously his pass blocking, when you go look at the film, is not great. However, you're not looking for this guy to pass block for you. He did have a little bit of a fumble problem, and that is concerning. He had 4 in 2022, 1 last year, so that it got better. Hopefully, coaches can really coach that out of him. If you have 1 fumble a year, it's kind of whatever. You want it to be 0, but if it's just 1, that's fine. You can deal with that. You don't want 4. If you have 4 fumbles a year, you are not going to be in the NFL. So you got to definitely clean that up. Hopefully that was just a fluke. He's also not going to break a ton of tackles. He's just going to try to run by, make jump cuts to get loose. He's not going to ever run through people, I don't think, even though he has a little bit of size. But I mean, that's just not his game from what I saw. So, but he does have a ton of potential. But 7.4 yards per carry, just Just think about that first. That is insane. He averaged over 6 for his career. Absurd. Completely absurd. On to number 7, Ray Davis out of Kentucky. I think he transferred from. No, I'm not going to remember. Let me look it up. Oh no, he's from Vanderbilt. I don't know what I'm talking about today. But yeah, Ray Davis out of Kentucky. Doesn't really matter that he went to Vanderbilt. But I just think this dude's a natural playmaker. There was one catch. I think I'm going to show it in this video against. It might have been against Vanderbilt, or it was an SEC opponent. I'm pretty sure, where Devin Leary just has to get rid of the ball, flicks it out to him. He's getting sacked, and Davis just runs a complete loop around the entire defense, goes across the field, scores a touchdown, like 40 yards. He's a playmaker, and I think you saw at the Senior Bowl, he did flash a little bit of pass protection. It wasn't great or consistent, but he showed the willingness to do it, which I think is really good. And at 5'10", 216, I expect him to be able to at least pick up blitzes, maybe not like anchor down and completely block guys, but to at least pick them up. He can chip out of the backfield. I think that showed on film that he does that to help out the interior or the tackles. But he has a ton of receiving upside. I love his open field awareness of where guys are behind him, next to him, in front of him. He has really good vision when it comes to that, to make the correct cuts and go into open space and keep running away from guys, even though he might not have the great top end speed. He does have a good burst to get through holes. I like his short area quicks and lateral movements. He's very decisive as a runner, and his route running is actually not horrible. I think you could definitely use him as a more, not experienced, but I think you could develop him more as a route runner. I think he has the ability to learn more crisp routes as a running back. Obviously, you're not going to be asked to run these double moves as a running back. Even though I think he might be able to do that, I don't know if he'd actually be used in that way. And I don't know. I really like his game, and I think his decisiveness and awareness really shows on tape. And that's a big thing when you're looking at these running backs. If you're not decisive and you keep sitting behind your offensive line and get too patient, dude, you're going to have these 2, 3, 4 yard losses all the time. You don't want that. Make one cut, see where the hole is, and go. And that's what Ray Davis does. Like I said, I don't know if he's going to be the home run type, even though he is such a great playmaker as a player, because he doesn't have that top end speed. We'll see at the combine though what his 40 is. I imagine it's somewhere in the 4.4s to 4.5, like low 4.5. But he is a 5th-year senior. I believe he'll be 23 going into his rookie year. Definitely a guy you could take a chance on. I have a day 3 grade. Doesn't really mean much to you, probably, but Ray Davis I really like. Over 5 yards a carry, 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns. Like I said, he's got some great receiving up, and I love seeing that out of running backs. 33 catches, over 300 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So he could definitely be used in a lot of ways, and I think offensive coordinators will love watching his film and be like, I want to work with this guy. We can use him at the backfield on angle routes, wheel routes, go routes up the seams. I think you could use Ray Davis in a lot of ways. At number 6, I believe, Blake Corum. Maybe a guy some people were not expecting this low, or maybe even this high. 23 years old, 5th-year senior. Or no, I think he's just a 4-year senior. But he had the meniscus injury last year. Came back because he thought Michigan had a good chance to win the Natty. He was right. He bet correctly, that's for sure. But at 5'8", 213, Blake Corum is a little bowling ball out there, man. But I love his patience as a runner. He definitely doesn't stay behind the line too much. I think he just has great vision and not awareness, but knowledge of where linebackers are going to fill. I mean, I call him Big Game Blake Corum because every time in a big game, it seems like he pops, whether it's a 20-yard touchdown run or a 30-yard run. It just seems like this dude is always making the big play. He did it twice against Ohio State. He did it against Penn State this year. He had the overtime touchdown against Alabama. He was fantastic in the national championship. Blake Corum, Big Game Blake. He knows how to get it done. He's a winner. And I know we're not talking about quarterbacks, but bringing in winners just for the culture aspect. People might gravitate towards Blake Corum because of that as a prospect, because you got to win. Like, if you're not a winner, it's hard to know how to win, right? So, obviously, it wasn't his greatest year this year, even though he did have 27 touchdowns. The meniscus kind of showed at times early in the season. It was a little bit hesitant, grew into it, really showed that he can be a 3-down back. I don't know if he will be a 3-down back in the NFL, but 27 touchdowns it's very impressive in itself. Obviously, the Michigan O-line was absurdly good this year. They had a ton of weapons across the offense, so it definitely helped him out. He was that engine, though, for the Michigan offense. Like, if you think of the Michigan offense, it was him, and then second was probably Donovan Edwards. Like, those two were the guys. He only had 4.8 yards per carry this year, which over 4 yards per carry is still really good. But considering his career, he was a 5.5 yard per carry guy. 4.8, it's a little bit of a step back. And could that be meniscus? Could that be the volume that he was given in that offense? Like, the dude had a ton of carries. And I think that will be something that scouts look into, is did the volume affect possibly the longevity of his career, because he already had the meniscus injury. That's something that you don't want to play around with, because even though meniscus, it's not an ACL injury, it can cause some bad early on arthritis problems if you don't take care of it correctly, especially early on. So something to look out for. I'm not like the biggest Blake Corum fan by any means, but it's just something you got to be aware of when you're looking into these guys. We thought he was going to come out last year. Then the meniscus injury happens. They don't go to the national championship. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes, because I could definitely see him going higher than what I expect, and I could see him going lower than what I expect as well. So it'll be really interesting. Some of the good things about him, though, I love his low center of gravity at 5'8". He stays low, and his contact balance is fantastic. He just bounces off guys. He is a bowling ball, like I said. Like I said, I love his patience, his vision. He has a really good burst. He gets up to top speed quickly. I don't love his top end speed. We'll see at the combine what he measures out at. But obviously at 5'8", you're not going to have super like long strides. So you're not that long strider, like breakaway speed type of guy. But again, big game Blake Corum. He makes big plays. He's a winner. And you might just want him on your team because of that. So at number 5, yeah, this is going to be higher than most people, I have a feeling. Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. He really showed out at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was the best back there outside of Ray Davis, in my opinion. I do have a day 3 grade on him. And, I mean, take that for what you will, honestly, because Blake Corum had a round 4. Like, I made these, and then I was like, oh, he might be higher. Like, it was tough to rank these guys. It really is. We have a ton of fifth-year seniors. This is another one. He was originally at South Carolina, transferred to USC this year. He showed all of his abilities. He did have an injury mid-season. I forget what it was. Yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to remember. But, again, he is 23 years old. And at 5'9", 210, I love his ability to possibly be a 3-down back. Maybe. Definitely a 3rd down. He could be a returner for you. I think he has natural playmaking ability. I love his receiving upside. At USC, they showed that he can run some routes, and at the Senior Bowl as well, I thought. I think it was Nevada. Against Nevada, he ran a seam on a play action. Made a really nice adjustment to the ball that you don't see a lot of running backs like making. So very impressive. And he was, I think, one of the top transfers last year. Obviously didn't pan out great for USC, but only 820 yards, had over 7 yards per carry as well, which is completely absurd. You got to understand, 7 yards per carry. Imagine on first down, you get 7 yards every time you run it with this guy. You have a 2nd and 3 average on almost every down or every possession. Every set of chains, you're going to probably have a 2nd and 3, 3rd and 3, somewhere in there. That is a very, very high efficient running rate. It is a crazy stat. Obviously, he doesn't have a ton of volume, which I think is a plus for him. Only 1621 yards on his career, 1,621 that is. Sorry, that was probably a little confusing. Over 5 yards per carry, which is really good. 19 touchdowns on his career. Like, I really love his receiving upside. I love his burst and speed that he brings, even though it might not be the highest top end speed or like elite speed by any means. He has very like quick and twitchy jump cuts to get away from guys. And like I said, he's just a playmaker. He kind of reminds me though of like the way he runs kind of reminds me of Pacheco. Like you got to go watch and like he just like stomps on the ground. I don't know what it is about these guys, but it's really fun to watch. He's a fun player to watch. It's going to be really interesting to see him at the combine to see his athletic like testing. I think that'll be a big thing for him and where he's actually going to go, because if it ends up being really good, I could easily see him in day two because of his playmaking ability. Some teams might see him as a 3-down back. I'm just going to say that. I don't know if he will be, but I think he has receiving and returning upsides, which it's very, very useful, especially when you're a rookie, to fight your way through the roster. And yeah, Marshawn Lloyd at number 5, probably higher than most people. Number 4, this one it's going to be interesting for some people, I feel like. Braelon Allen out of Wisconsin, 6'2", 245. If you're looking for a Derrick Henry, here you are. 6'2", almost 250 pounds. Are you kidding me? The dude is literally a human tank. Watching his film and then seeing the guys that he's running next to or like running over, he looks like a mammoth out there, man. Obviously at 6'2", 245, he isn't going to have the greatest speed. It's not going to blow you away by any means, but the power and the constant push and churning of the legs is what I really love about him. And he's also only 20 years old. I think he's the youngest. He's got to be one of the youngest prospects in this entire draft. And at the running back position, with not a ton of like career volume, people are going to take that into account, and it's going to create a lot of value for Braelon Allen in the end of this thing. He made Bruce Feldman's freak list. Obviously, he has a crazy combo of power. And I know I said that he didn't have a ton of speed, but he does have a good combo of power and speed. He turns the speed into power. He lowers the shoulder. He can get pretty low for being 6'2". He does have a little bit of receiving upside, but probably just as a screen and swing route type of guy. I think he had a wheel route in one of the games that I watched. I could be wrong, but I don't think he'll be running wheel routes in the NFL. They're going to use him in the screen game as a receiver, swing him out of the backfield, little hook routes in front of the linebackers. And he has decent hands. He actually catches the ball with his hands and not his body, which I really like. I wish more receivers did that. That's besides the point. I did find this out. The dude has 8% body fat at 6'2", 245. My God. And I also love, like, back to what I was saying about him constantly turning those legs and, like, going through guys. He is constantly falling forward. And at 6'2", you know, other guys 5'10", 5'11", they're falling forward for 1-2 yards. This dude's falling forward for 2 to 4 yards. Like, I love watching that out of running backs, just constantly falling forward, going for negative plays. He rarely goes for negative plays unless his O-line just doesn't block. I will say his fumbles, definitely a problem. You have to clean that up. And hopefully he's working on that. He had 4 this year, 9 on his career. That's not a good number. I think he had 1 last year, 4 this year, and then 4 his freshman year. So that has to be cleaned up because the 1 is looking like the fluke. That's the odd man out right now. I think he had the most rushing yards for a freshman at Wisconsin. And if you know Wisconsin running backs, that's impressive because they've had some great ones over there. Monty Ball, you think of, Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor. Like, they've got guys that have come out of Wisconsin. And Braelon Allen's got the most rushing yards as a freshman. So definitely something to take into account, but you got to take it with the fumbles. Obviously, he's not going to have super twitchy lateral movements, which can be a turnoff for some people. It really depends what you're looking for, what kind of offense you're trying to run. I would really like to see at the combine, his 40 especially. I know he's going to kill like the bench if he does that, and he'll probably do really good at the box jump. Don't know about the vertical, but he's a freak, man. He really is. But like I said, he's going to be a 3-down back. Definitely. He can be a workhorse. Obviously didn't have a ton of volume this year, but still had 12 touchdowns. So he can get in the end zone. You put him in third, 4th and 1 situations, 4th and goal, 3rd and goal. You run the football with this guy in short yardage situations. He's going to pick them up, but you got to take it with the fumble, and you got to be able to clean that up. So I don't know what it is. I mean, you can kind of see it in this picture. That ball is kind of out there. Obviously, he's in open space, but you got to keep that thing high and tight, man. High and tight. At number 3, one of my favorite running back prospects, even though I do not like Oregon as a WSU fan, Bucky Irving, out of Oregon, 5'10", 195. I have a top 100 grade on him because he's got receiving upside. I think he has returning upside. He definitely won't be a 3-down back, but 2nd, 3rd down, long passing situations, he's going to be able to run routes. He's like angle routes, wheel routes, seams. He's going to be able to have a route tree, I think, and that's going to be very, very valuable. I love his burst and his vision. He can make twitchy cuts, man. He is a twitched up athlete, in my opinion. And to the opposite of Braelon Allen, this dude only had 1 fumble in his entire 3-year career in college. 1. That's pretty good. I think one of his, obviously with that lean frame, one of his best like abilities, he can get skinny, man, through lanes and like on the sideline with a guy pursuing him. He gets real skinny and he just blows right by you. I don't love the size, obviously. His frame, he might be shorter than 5'10". Like he could be like 5'9", 5'8", but listed at 5'10" for now. Sometimes he does jump outside instead of taking the inside lanes that are like obviously there, which maybe just take the yards. I know this guy wants to be the big play like kind of guy, but just take the yards sometimes. That's like in the NFL, he's going to have to learn. You just have to take those 2-3 yard gains and not always look for the home run play. Another thing, not a great pass blocker. I mean, you wouldn't expect him to be at 5'10", 195. Sometimes he'll chip here and there, but it really doesn't look like he's doing much. I really love Bucky Irving. I think he could be a sleeper to go RB1 because he doesn't have a crazy injury history like the next 2 guys that we're going to get to. But it wouldn't surprise me if he went the first running back off the board. I'm just going to say that. I mean, 56 receptions. It says all you need to know about this guy's game. Super versatile, twitchy athlete. I love Bucky Irving, man. He is so freaking fun to watch in a league that is really taking smaller guys and twitchy athletes. Maybe it's Bucky Irving's year, man. Maybe he is RB1. At number 2, Mr. Home Run, Trey Benson. 6'1", 223. Talk about prototypical running back workhorse size. This is your guy. However, he did have a really, really brutal injury when he was at Oregon where, get your notebooks out for this one. He tore his ACL, his MCL, both meniscus, so that's your lateral and medial, and then the gracilis tendon in, however you say that, in your hamstring. In one injury. That was one. That was not multiple. That was the same situation. So something you really have to take account of. The physical is going to be something that really is going to either keep his stock at this top 75 projection of where I have him and possibly falling to day 3. Because his ability, we all saw it at Florida State the last 2 years. Over 900 yards the last 2 seasons. He has home run hitting ability. He's got speed. He's got power. He's got receiving upside. He can pass block for you. I love his lateral quickness. And he came back from injuries as well, as we can all see. And he looks like just as good, if not better, of a running back than he did beforehand. So I don't know if the injuries affected him, at least right now, he is still only 21, 22 years old. So maybe they're going to catch up to him by the time he's 25, 26. We'll see a Todd Gurley situation play out, which I hope not, because this kid is so damn fun to watch, dude. And he could easily be your running back one because the guy we're going to get to had an injury this year. Longevity is definitely going to be a question because of what happened when he was at Oregon as a freshman in 2020. That is a major, major injury. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but hopefully physical checks out for him because he is so fun to watch. Like I said, speed and power combo. He's 6'1", 220 or over 220. That's prototypical running back size. Perfect. To a T. He's got burst. He's got vision, receiving upside. It's really all about the physical with him. So not much more else to say. And RB1 for me, as some might have expected after Trey Benson going at RB2, is Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. Texas about to put out 2 top running backs in the past 2 years, and he would be close to a first-round pick if it weren't for the ACL injury, because this dude is special, man. He has all the tools in the world. I love his size at 6 foot, 207. My God, that was a struggle to get out, as you could tell. But like I said, the ACL, how is that going to test out? Because we're not going to see it at the combine. It's going to be after this guy gets drafted. So he's not going to be at his pro day. He's going to be rehabbing this entire draft process, which absolutely sucks. I hate that for him. But the dude is special. He really is. Like the size, and then you have the speed. He's got power, receiving ability, agility. He is twitchy. He's not Bucky Irving twitchy, but he's got some lateral movement. He kind of reminds me of a Le'Veon Bell, maybe not that patient of a runner, but he'll go horizontal until he sees that hole, and then boom, he's gone. Touchdown, 25, 35, 45 yards. He is gone. Like, his start-stop ability is really special. Before his injury, he had the most broken tackles in all of college football as well. So take that into account. And this dude's playing in the Big 12. I know Big 12 ain't known for their defense, but they're still playing good opponents. They played Alabama week 2. Man, oh man, this dude is so fun to watch. I pray that the ACL did not just ruin another running back's career, because if he can come back from it, I think he's got a 10-year career ahead of him, and a really productive one at that, because he played, 9 games, I think, this year, had over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. He was going to be the running back of the year. Obviously, that went to Ollie Gordon by the end of it, but doesn't have a ton of volume, which I think is on his side, even though he did have the ACL injury. What isn't on his side, first time he's a full-time starter, ACL injury. And I don't think he had any problems in high school by any means. Just super, super unfortunate. Hopefully he can come back. Durability is going to be a question mark, though. He's going to have to kill the interviews and let them keep updating these scouts and GMs how his rehab is going, because that's going to be super, super key into where he actually goes. Kind of nitpicking. Sometimes he looks for the big play too much, which that was 2 or 3 times maybe that I saw. And I think he can be a decent pass protector. At 6 foot, almost 210, I think he could bulk up a little bit too. I'm seriously praying that this kid gets drafted and then the physical pans out for him, because I don't know if he's going to be ready week 1. That's another chance that you're taking at drafting this dude. I don't know if he's going to be ready week 1. ACL, yes, it's a 6-month rehab recovery process, but like most people say, it's going to take about a year to get back to full strength. At least a year. Maybe 9 months if you're a god, basically. ACLs are very major and cannot, they have to be taken seriously. This dude has a ton of pros to him and 1 con. That's really all. Him and Trey Benson. If you had Trey Benson as RB1, I have no problem with that. But both guys have major injuries, and we'll see where they land. Excuse me. But that'll do it for this one. I do want to do some honorable mentions. Obviously, like there's a lot of good running backs in this class. This was a tough, like top 10 to rank because from about 6 or 7 to 10, I had about 4 to 5 other guys I was considering in those. Dylan Laube or Laub from New Hampshire, love his receiving upside. If you couldn't tell, I love running backs with a receiving upside. I think that's super, super valuable in this day and age of the NFL. So him, um, Amani Bailey out of TCU, I really like. Uh, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think Gurendo is in this draft as well if he didn't come back. Dylan Johnson out of UW. His physicals have to test out too. He was banged up all season, so hopefully he can test out because he was almost my RB10. I think he could be a 3 down back in the league, and you saw the receiving upside at UW as well. Like, yeah, there's so many guys. I didn't even name half of them. Will Shipley out of Clemson, definitely a sleeper for some people. But yeah, like I said, a ton of running backs, a ton of guys that could go even up towards the top 5 of this list by the time we get to late April. So let me know who I missed or left off this list. I always love hearing the feedback in the comments section. And I'll see you guys for maybe a wide receiver one next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please like, subscribe, and comment. Like I said, who is your favorite running back in this class? And I will see you in the next one. Take it easy and peace.